Okay. Hello everyone. A warm welcome to today's webinar on revenue model and pricing strategies that drive sales. I'm Sanna Singh, your host for today's session on behalf of Satna Incubation Center and Satna Smart City Development Limited. Today's session is designed specially for founders and early stage entrepreneurs who are eager to understand how to monetize their ideas effectively and build a sustainable business model. बिकॉज लेट्स बी ऑनेस्ट सिर्फ प्रोडक्ट बनाना और मार्केट में लॉन्च कर देना ही काफ़ी नहीं होता. बिजनेस का तभी ग्रो करता है जब आप राइट रेवेन्यू मॉडल चूज करते हो, अपनी प्राइसिंग स्ट्रेटजी स्मार्टली सेट करते हो और अपने कस्टमर्स के लिए क्लियर वैल्यू डिलीवर करते हो. तो आज हम यही समझेंगे कैसे आप अपने स्टार्टअप के लिए सही रेवेन्यू मॉडल आइडेंटिफाई करें, कैसे प्राइसिंग आपके प्रोडक्ट की परसेप्शन और सेल्स दोनों को इम्पैक्ट करती है और कैसे स्ट्रक्चर्ड स्ट्रेटजीज के थ्रू आप सस्टेनेबल रेवेन्यू जनरेट कर सकते हैं. So now let's introduce our expert for the day, Mr. Madhur Agarwal, CEO and co-founder of Enligence AI Labs. Madhur sir is a tech entrepreneur and business strategist who have helped several startups and enterprises design scalable revenue model and data-driven growth frameworks. With year of experience in building and learning AI-driven ventures, he brings deep insights into how innovation and smart pricing can drive consistent sales growth. So let's welcome Mr. Madhur Agrawal as he takes us through how to design and implement revenue model and pricing strategies that truly drive sales. So before we start, a quick reminder to all our attendees and to all our viewers. If you have any questions during the sessions, please feel free to type them in the chat box. We'll take them during the Q&A segment towards at the end. And let's keep this session interactive and practical. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sanjana. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Madhur. So thanks for introduction, Sanjana. I'll just quickly take 1 more minute to talk about what I've done in the past so that everybody understands a little bit more about me and my experience. So guys, I bring about 15 years of experience in B2B SaaS sales in total, primarily expanding revenue footprints across different geographies internationally, as well as in India, and also working on GTM strategies for early age startups. Specifically, recently I got very interested in helping AI startups because all the buzz is about AI, all the products are AI as well. So the GTM is very different for AI-based startups, along with an iterative GTM as well. So what we look at today in this session is what is revenue models and how to price properly to ensure profitability, scalability for startups. And that can be very different for different verticals as well. So we'll do a deep dive into that. So let's start. Is my screen visible to everybody?
Yes, sir, your screen is visible.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah.
Okay. So most startups basically obsess over product and ignore the pricing. But the truth is that pricing communicates more about your product than what the market does. Your pricing basically says that how the customers will actually perceive your product's value they can expect over here. Would you be seen in the market as an affordable solution, or would you be seen as a premium solution? Or would you be seen as a solution that is completely indispensable? For example, when we look at Xiaomi versus Apple, by default we know which is a more affordable versus a premium phone. While we know that there's not a lot of differences in the market, but there's a brand value that is perceived in both the cases that also is impacted directly by how you are pricing, where you are placing the product at any point of time. A lot of startups fail not because their product is bad, but because they couldn't capture the value that they created. And a lot of products actually succeeded in the market that did not have a great product, but they were able to capture the value early on. So if your product is your engine, think of the pricing as the fuel for the engine, which decides how far you will be able to take the engine and how fast you will be able to go as well. So this is why the pricing matters. So your revenue model is simply who pays for what and how often do they pay for your product or your services as well. So choosing the right model early on helps you scale faster and stay profitable. When we look at the pricing models or understanding the revenue models, there are three primary categories we can look at. One is B2B, then is B2C, and then third is D2C. These three basically cover all the three primary revenue models that you have to design. B2B specifically is looking at a business selling to a business, while B2C is a business selling to a customer directly. And D2C is directly selling to a customer models, eliminating all the middle layers at any point of time. Some of the examples of B2B are HubSpot, AWS. None of the direct customers experience services by them. However, they still impact millions of customers across the world indirectly via the businesses they are catering to. B2C, Swiggy, Netflix, they probably take services from HubSpot or AWS, but what the customers see is Swiggy and Netflix interface. They never see HubSpot or AWS interface. And similarly, D2C, Lenskart, Upwork, which are directly catering, bundling their services and reaching out to the masses instead of to the direct businesses as well. Or they can also sometimes cater to the businesses as well. Choosing the right model really helps a startup to scale faster and stay profitable. It is very critical to lock onto your zone over here, that which zone you are going to be in at any point of time. Once you know you are a B2B model, you are a B2C or a D2C model, the next thing that you want to focus on after that is that what monetizing strategies will actually work for you. There are four primary monetization strategies for startups to keep making money. Like for example, freemiums are there to attract the users that try before you buy. Some of those things. Any names that comes to your mind of any freemium model? Can you guys think of any platform? How many of you guys use ChatGPT, Google Gemini? They're all freemium models. You try it, then you hit the rate limit. If you find enough value, you say, okay, we want to buy, or we don't want to buy. The value is not enough. Then after that comes the subscription, which is recurring revenue models where you buy on a monthly, quarterly, or sometimes yearly basis as well. And then after that, you've got licensing and partnership models. Once you have closed the business, then you can also tap into upselling or cross-selling to the same customers, which is basically increasing your ticket size, making more revenue from the same customers that you have already converted over here. Freemium primarily focuses on conversion, while subscription models bases or licensing model based on optimizing these conversions as well. Combining two or three of these different models help in diversifying the revenue. Usually it's very difficult to do that. However, if you're able to do that, you will be able to diversify your revenue streams, which makes growth more predictable for the startups as well. Now, the big question that comes after that is that does your model create revenue for you on a compounding basis, or it's a one-time revenue generation activity? Let's talk about something that most founders miss early. In fact, I was one of those founders as well who completely missed this thing in the early days of my venture starting journey as well. One-time transaction is more like running on a treadmill. You go to a gym, you get on a treadmill, you press the start button, and then you start running. But basically, you start from zero every single time. Like if you ran 5 kilometers today, you won't start from 5 kilometers tomorrow. When you start the treadmill again, you will have to start from zero the next day as well. However, subscription or recurring models, they're more like a flywheel. You start slow, but once the speed is there, they become very difficult to stop. And the momentum is great after that. The amount keeps on compounding, and soon like companies are making millions and millions after that. Best example is again ChatGPT, one of the fastest company to reach 100 million users in the usage to sign up for the platform, and then also one of the fastest companies to reach $1 billion in revenue after they got the product out into the market. Best companies, they try to balance both at any point of time. That I want to have a compounding revenue effect and a one-time revenue effect as well. And then for that, they try to take transactional spikes for growth at any point of time. So the question to ask to yourself over here is, does your business compound or reset each and every month? If you have a compounding business, you will have more predictability, basically a subscription-based model. Or if you are resetting every month, you will probably have a transactional-based business. You can grow very quickly in a month as well, but forecasting and predictability becomes very, very difficult in such scenarios. So let's do a small exercise. We'll take a pause over here. I want everyone in the audience to basically read this question and answer this as honestly, as earnestly as possible. You have to answer, we make money when Dash pays us for Dash. I'll give you a couple of examples over here to get the thoughts into the motion over here. Let's take Swiggy for example. We make money when a restaurant pays us for every order we deliver. Or Netflix. We make money when users pay us monthly for entertainment at the beginning of the month. Or for example, in my case, my own startup, We make money when learning and development teams pay us for every custom course they create using our platform. So for your business, you should be able to answer it as simply as this, that we make money when Dash pays us for Dash. And we'll take a minute or two, and if I can see some of the answers, that would be great as well in the comment section. And if you can't fill this, probably that means your revenue model still needs clarity. You have not really nailed down your revenue model, that how you're going to make money or how your business is going to make money and what value you're offering to the customers as well. We'll wait for 30 more seconds before we move forward. Sajana, how do I see the responses? Do I join the chat here to see these responses?
Sir, I'll ping the chat, and you can see on the comment section at the right hand side.
I don't see any comments coming in over here.
Sir, right now we didn't get any comment.
Ah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move forward now. So basically, pricing is a strategy that you tell, is a story that you tell to your customers, as said by Rafi Mohammed. This quote basically sums up everything about the pricing very beautifully. It's not just a number, it's a narrative. For example, a product at 499 rupees might say that I'm an affordable product. But the same product at 4,999 would say I'm a premium product. But if you take the price up to 49,999 of the same product, might also communicate that I'm a transformational and indispensable product for the company or for the customer as well. So customers don't really buy your product. They perceive the value of the product. They see whether the pricing is right as per the value that you are communicating, and then emotionally they make a decision that whether do I want to buy this product or not. And this is very true for B2C customers. For B2B customers, the decision is a lot more rational because there's multiple parties involved. However, this is very, very true for B2C customers. So they just don't buy your product, they buy into the story your price is telling them as well. So the real question is that what story are you telling through your pricing, and how do you want to categorize your product? It is very important to categorize your product early on into either an affordable solution like Zoho. Zoho was very clear right from the beginning that we want to be the cheapest solution available in the market. They basically offer everything that Microsoft Dynamics do, or a lot of other CRM systems in the market do as well. But their selling point has always been the cheapest solution into the market. While when we look at Salesforce, they always say, and they are on the expensive side, they always say we are the best and the most premium product in the market. So it is very important to categorize where you fall into the market, because on the basis of that, you would be targeting your customers. On the basis of that, you would be driving your marketing and sales efforts on top of that as well. And pricing has multiple different anchors. So there are three primary anchors we look at. That is a cost-based anchor, a competitor-based anchor, or a value-based anchor. When we look at a cost-based anchor, the best company usually would blend all three, but always lead with the value. We should always lead with the value over here. Value-based pricing ensures that you're rewarded for the impact you create, not just for the cost structure. For example, a cost base is a very basic maths over here, that what is my internal cost? And then simply, just put a markup on top of that, but do not look at the value at all over here. However, a competitor based is comparatively more easy, that you look at 5 or 6 different competitors into the market, see what they're charging, put an average around it. Very fast you can come up to a pricing structure. But again, it starts an economic price war, and it also ignores the value over here. The best anchor that we can always get to is the value based anchor, that what is the customer perception of my product, what am I charging, and how much value they are getting in return of that. And then you come up with an optimal profit that you can make for the customer over here and for your business as well, which is a valid ask, that okay, if I am making 10x for my customer, it's okay to ask twice the price of what I'm asking for at this point of time. This is usually difficult to find. You have to go through an iterative process. You have to do alpha beta testing. trials and reruns again and again. And you have to talk to your early adopters as well that what value they found. You have to quantify those value pointers. Once you're able to quantify those value pointers is when you really come up with a value-based pricing anchor. And best companies, they always lead with the value. They might combine all, they might combine two, but they will always lead with the value to ensure that the price perception is always to the point. And that is true for all the companies, whether that is the Swiggies, the Zomatos, the Ubers, the Apple, or the Googles of the world at any point of time. So designing a pricing strategy, it's not a one-time decision. It's always an iterative and ongoing experiment. You have to continuously iterate, try again to do that. You have to start by identifying your value metric and then understand what your customers are truly paying for. For example, there are three core primary metrics that you can look at that are my customers going to pay for per user, per order, or on a per usage basis? How do I charge them? All three are fine depending on your business model, or you can have multiple of these plugged into one simple solution as well. Or you can have a tiered pricing model that starters, pro, enterprise, advanced level users, whatever you want to name or term them as well. They usually would have a feature bifurcation. Again, this is something that only happens once you understand and talk to your early adopters that how they are using your product, what features are most useful, and then what are the critical features that they would pay extra for, which you can ask or tier them into a different segment altogether. One thing, again, this is something I also did wrong in my early days, that I would anchor my pricing low when I should have priced it high. This is one mistake that a lot of founders do. That is asking for very low price with the fear that what if I ask for a higher price, they might say no. But that also backfires because what happens is once a bar is set that our pricing is here, it is very difficult to raise the bar. But if you set the bar high, it's easier to drop the bar down. That is not an issue at all. You can always offer discounts. Okay, I got a request for Hindi over here, so I'll try to do that. Sure. तो हमेशा हमें क्या करना चाहिए कि अपनी प्राइसिंग को थोड़ा हाई रखना चाहिए. मैंने भी ये गलती करी थी कि अपनी प्राइसिंग स्टार्टिंग में लो रखनी शुरू करी थी विद द फियर कि अगर ज़्यादा मांग लिया तो सामने वाला मना कर देगा और उसके पास बजट नहीं हुआ तो कैसे होगा. बट अगर हम अपनी प्राइसिंग हाई रखते हैं, हम डिस्काउंट दे सकते हैं. वी कैन से कि आप मल्टी ईयर डील साइन करो, हम आपको 50% ऑफ दे देंगे. लेकिन अगर आप अपनी प्राइसिंग लो रखते हैं, उसको बढ़ाना बहुत मुश्किल होता है, स्पेशली इन अ मार्केट लाइक इंडिया जो कि बहुत ही प्राइस सेंसिटिव है बट वैल्यू अवेयर है. इंडिया इज़ अ वेरी डिफरेंट मार्केट देन अ लॉट ऑफ डिफरेंट कंट्रीज, बिकॉज इंडिया में कंज्यूमर हमारा स्मार्ट है, कंज्यूमर को वैल्यू पता है, बट पे करने का इंटेंट बहुत हाई नहीं होता है इंडिया में. सो दे वॉन्ट टू सेव मनी एज मच एज पॉसिबल. तो उसमें ऐसे मार्केट्स में स्पेसिफिकली हमें बार हाई रख के डिस्काउंट देना इज ऑलवेज एडवाइजेबल रादर देन बार को लो रख के बाद में प्राइसिंग बढ़ाने की कोशिश करना, क्योंकि रिन्यूअल्स के टाइम पे सारे कस्टमर्स आपको कंप्लेन करेंगे वैल्यू नहीं मिला, ये नहीं हुआ, वो नहीं हुआ. एंड ऑल्सो प्राइसिंग, जैसा मैंने बोला कि आइटरेटिव प्रोसेस है. एक बार प्राइसिंग सेट हो गया उसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि हमें प्राइसिंग को रिविजिट नहीं करना चाहिए या फिर ये प्राइसिंग अब बस जब तक बिजनेस चलेगा तब तक चलती रहेगी. Set up a timeline, 3 months, 6 months, or a yearly. Usually 6 months is a good time. Every 6 months, revisit the pricing. Track your primary KPIs कि आपकी परफॉर्मेंस कैसी चल रही है. उसके बेसिस पे अपनी प्राइसेस को रिवाइज करते रहना चाहिए, बिकॉज विद इन्फ्लेशन, विद द मार्केट नीड्स, योर प्राइसिंग शुड ऑल्सो इवॉल्व. ये एक स्टैटिक प्रोसेस नहीं होता है कि बिजनेस के स्टार्टिंग में कर लिया तो दैट इज इट. प्राइसिंग भी डायनामिकली हमेशा बिजनेस नीड्स के संग चेंज होती ही रहती है. व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट प्राइसिंग, look at it as a triangle. It's called a value price cost triangle, जहाँ पे वैल्यू को हम सबसे टॉप पे प्लेस करते हैं, प्राइस जो हम चार्ज करना चाहते हैं सेंटर में प्लेस करते हैं, और हमारी बिजनेस की रनिंग कॉस्ट को हम बॉटम पे प्लेस करते हैं. हमारी प्राइसिंग कभी भी कॉस्ट के पास नहीं होनी चाहिए और इससे इन्फ्लुएंस नहीं होनी चाहिए. हमारी प्राइसिंग हमेशा वैल्यू के पास जानी चाहिए. द क्लोजर वी गो टू द वैल्यू, द मोर सस्टेनेबल एंड प्रॉफिटेबल बिजनेस वी विल हैव. बेसिकली कॉस्ट हमें बस ये बताती है कि अगर हम कोई वैल्यू अपने कस्टमर को डिलीवर करना चाहते हैं तो उसकी प्राइस कॉस्ट हमें क्या पड़ेगी, हम कितना खर्चा कर रहे हैं उसके ऊपर. देयर शुड ऑलवेज बी अ मार्कअप ऑफ कोर्स, बट प्राइस जो आप चार्ज कर रहे हो वो वैल्यू के जितना क्लोज जाता जाएगा आपका बिजनेस उतना सस्टेनेबल और उतनी जल्दी आपको प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी दिखाना शुरू करेगा. जितना हम नीचे जाते जाएंगे हमारे लिए दिक्कतें उतनी बढ़ती जाएंगी, स्केलेबिलिटी हमारे लिए उतनी ही मुश्किल होती जाएगी आगे जाके, बिकॉज टू बिल्ड अ ब्रांड वी नीड healthy margins and we need pricing strength. which should be very clear right from the beginning for consumers at any point of time. I'll give you some examples over here. जैसे SaaS में typical सब्सक्रिप्शन बेस्ड मॉडल्स जो होते हैं, यूजली पर सीट में हम चार्ज करते हैं, जैसे स्लैक हो गया, जूम हो गया. अब इसमें हम प्राइसिंग को बहुत लो रखते हैं स्टार्टिंग में पर यूजर बेसिस पे, बिकॉज वी नो दैट एक बार हमारा प्रोडक्ट किसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में चला गया, इकोनॉमीज ऑफ स्केल विल कम इन टू प्ले. फॉर एग्जाम्पल 1000 लोग की ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, वी स्टार्ट विद 10 पीपल बट एंड चार्ज लेट्स से $2 पर यूजर, तो हमारा $20 मंथली रेवेन्यू है. बट एज वी कीप पेनिट्रेटिंग ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, जैसे जैसे हमारा फुटप्रिंट बढ़ता जाएगा, we'll go closer towards thousands of dollars coming in or rupees coming in on the basis of how many users are using, जिसकी वजह से टिकट साइज बढ़ता जाता है, and then that gets compounded on a monthly basis, वो बहुत बड़ा अमाउंट बन जाता है. तो यार प्राइसिंग मेट्रिक विल डिफाइन कि आप कितना पैसा बनाओगे, और वो ये भी डिफाइन करता है कि आपका कस्टमर उसकी वैल्यू को कैसे परसीव करेगा. एक और एग्जांपल लेते हैं यहाँ पे कंज्यूमर टेक में. फॉर एग्जांपल लेंस कार्ट है, जैसे लेंस कार्ट चार्ज करता है बंडल्स में. वो अपने यूजर्स को एंकरेज करता है कि आप बड़ा परचेज करो, आपको और बहुत ज़्यादा चीज़ें मिल जाएंगी. आप एक सिंगल चीज़ परचेज करोगे, आपको महंगा पड़ेगा. सो दे आर इंक्रीजिंग द टिकट साइज बाय बंडलिंग मल्टीपल थिंग्स एट द सेम टाइम. आप एक फ्रेम खरीदोगे, आपको महंगा पड़ेगा. आप 2 फ्रेम खरीदोगे, थोड़ा सा सस्ता पड़ेगा. आप 2 फ्रेम के संग लेंसेज भी खरीदोगे, कहेंगे आप फ्रेम्स फ्री में ले लो, बिकॉज वी नो कि हम लेंसेज पे पैसा बना लेंगे, राइट. बट अब उन्होंने आपको एक की जगह 4 प्रोडक्ट्स भेज दिए, एंड दैट इज हाउ दे आर मोनेटाइजिंग, अपना मार्जिन बढ़ाते हुए. उबर और जोमेटो है, वो पर ट्रांजेक्शन चार्ज करते हैं, बहुत ट्रांसपेरेंट प्राइसिंग है, बट अगेन दे आर प्लेइंग ऑन इकोनॉमीज ऑफ स्केल. उनको पता है कि प्लेटफॉर्म फीस वगैरह नहीं लेते हैं, बट अगर हमारे प्लेटफॉर्म को 1 मिलियन यूज़र यूज़ करता है और ₹10 हर मिलियन देता है पर डे अगर सपोज यूज़र, तो 10 मिलियन तो हमारे एक ही दिन में ऐसे बन जाएंगे. सो दे चार्ज अ वेरी स्मॉल ट्रांजेक्शन फी कमीशन ऑन द सर्विसेज दे आर एबल टू ड्राइव. सो इट इज़ important to drive the right metric which is in sync with your business value offering as well, and that will make your revenues predictable. जितना जल्दी आप अपने बिजनेस मॉडल को B2B, B2C या फिर D2C को अपने प्राइसिंग मॉडल्स के संग कंबाइन करोगे और उस पर क्लैरिटी लेकर आओगे, उतनी जल्दी आपको प्रिडिक्टेबल रेवेन्यूज दिखने शुरू भी हो जाएंगे. प्राइसिंग जो है वो एक साइंस भी है और एक यूजर साइकोलॉजी भी है. इसके लिए यूजर की आपके बायर की साइकोलॉजी को समझना भी जरूरी है. अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल से कि मार्केट मैनिपुलेट कर रहे हो, एप्पल को बोलते हैं, गूगल को बोलते हैं, बट इट्स नॉट मार्केट मैनिपुलेशन. हम अपनी प्राइसिंग को एज अग्रेसिव एज वी वांट टू बी, वी वांट टू कीप द प्राइसिंग वेरी अग्रेसिव, क्योंकि मार्केट हाईली कंपेटिटिव है और उसके लिए यूजर साइकी को समझना भी जरूरी है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल डीकॉय प्लान, किसी ने नाम सुना है इसका, डीकॉय प्लान का कभी पहले? और अ प्राइसिंग स्ट्रेटेजी जो मिड टियर को अफोर्डेबल दिखाना शुरू कर देती है. अगेन आई विल गिव एन एग्जांपल ऑफ एप्पल. एप्पल जब भी कोई नया फ़ोन लॉन्च करता है, वो 3 मॉडल निकालता है. एक मॉडल आपका काफ़ी अफोर्डेबल होता है, जो यूजली आसानी से लोग खरीद सकते हैं. उसके बाद जो सेकंड मॉडल होता है, उसमें गैप काफ़ी ज़्यादा होता है. इन थर्ड मॉडल और सेकंड मॉडल में गैप काफ़ी कम होता है, कि अगर आप सेकंड मॉडल को देखोगे, आप बोलोगे यार थोड़ा सा पैसा डाल के थर्ड ही खरीद लेते हैं, इतना डिफरेंस नहीं है. लेकिन सबको यूजली सेकंड मॉडल चाहिए होता है. व्हाट दे वांट इज कि लोग प्रीमियम खरीदें हमारा, लेकिन इसके लिए प्रीमियम खरीदने के लिए लोग ज़्यादा जाते नहीं हैं, तो सेकंड मॉडल को अफोर्डेबल दिखाना ज़रूरी है, जिसके लिए वो डीकॉय प्लान यूज़ करते हैं. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल 499 के बाद सीधा 899 एंड देन 950 पे आपका टॉप मॉडल आ जाएगा. सो यू नो कि ₹50 तो फालतू डालने हैं, लेट मी पुट ₹50 फालतू. अगर मैं 800 खर्च कर सकता हूँ, 900 खर्च कर सकता हूँ, तो मैं 950 भी खर्च कर सकता हूँ. तो सडनली योर यूज़र विद अ माइंडसेट जिसका था कि मैं ₹500 का फ़ोन लेना चाहता हूँ, वो ₹900 का, ₹950 का फ़ोन खरीद सकता है वहाँ पे. एंड देन द सेकंड इज़ राउंडिंग अप, यू नो, जैसे कि 500 वर्सेस 499 या फिर 1000 की जगह 999 की प्राइसिंग. व्हाट इट डज इज इट शोज द प्राइसिंग टू बी लेस. जब जीरोज नहीं दिखते हैं, इट्स अ ह्यूमन साइकी कि हमें प्राइसिंग की परसीव्ड वैल्यू कम दिखनी शुरू हो जाती है उसकी वजह से. और अ वेरी प्रिसाइज प्राइसिंग, जैसे 1170 यहाँ पे एग्जाम्पल में है, what this communicates is that you know your product's value, what it is communicating. You are absolutely sure about that, and that is what you want to communicate over here. उससे ट्रस्ट फैक्टर बढ़ जाता है आपका एट एनी पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम. एंड आफ्टर दैट ऑफ कोर्स डिस्काउंट्स. आई एम प्रीटी श्योर यहाँ पे जितने भी बिजनेस कर रहे हैं लोग, सबने डिस्काउंट्स ऑफर किए होंगे, which is absolutely fine. There is nothing wrong in offering the discounts at any point of time. However, discounts have a downside. That number one, we should be very careful in offering and not over offer the discounts at any point of time. Discounts should be designed to reward loyalty and create an urgency. मैं एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ यहाँ पे. वी मी एंड माई सर्कल वी गो टू द जिम. तो हम लोग एक ऐप यूज़ करते हैं कैलोरी काउंटिंग की. अब वो कैलोरी काउंटिंग ऐप जो है वो हमेशा दिखाती है 10,000 रुपये साल का सब्सक्रिप्शन दिखाती है. पर अगर आप 24 घंटे के लिए उसको सब्सक्राइब नहीं करोगे तो वो प्राइसिंग ड्रॉप कर देती है 2,000 रुपीज़ पे. नाउ एवरीबडी इन माई ग्रुप नोज कि ये ऐप 2,000 रुपये की है. आपको बस 24 आवर्स वेट करना है, आपको बाई डिफ़ॉल्ट ये 2,000 रुपीज़ में मिल जाएगी. अब अगली बार जब साल पूरा होगा, सब्सक्रिप्शन खत्म होगा, आई गारंटी नॉट अ सिंगल पर्सन इन माई ग्रुप विल बाई इट अगर वो 2,000 रुपये से ज़्यादा की है. बिकॉज द परसीव्ड वैल्यू ऑफ द एप्लीकेशन इज़ नाउ 2,000 रुपीज़, क्योंकि सबको उसने वो वैल्यू दिखा दी है. नॉट अ हैंडफुल ऑफ कस्टमर्स. बाई डिफ़ॉल्ट आफ्टर 24 आवर्स दैट वैल्यू गोज डाउन. तो वो परसीव्ड वैल्यू 10,000 की अब हम कभी देख ही नहीं सकते, वो 2,000 की ही दिखाई देगी. अगर वो 4,000 भी चार्ज करेगा, I guarantee nobody in my group will buy it now. So offers should be limited time. They should always be time driven, and you should be careful in when you are offering that. They should reward loyalty. For example, मैं ये app use कर रहा हूँ. They should try to retain me even if I have to pay 2,000 to them. If they are not charging 10,000 or 4,000, they should still try to retain me because I am already a customer, and the value is already there. Perceived value is already there of 2,000 rupees, right? And the second thing is customer acquisition. अगर आपको customer acquire करना है, that's a great strategy. But then give it for a very limited time. You are only able to offer it for, let's say, next 24 hours to a handful of people, so that you have the early customers that come over here. अगर वो सबके लिए ओपन है और वो टाइमलाइन के साथ नहीं आता है डिस्काउंट, तो वो किसी भी प्रोडक्ट की परसीव वैल्यू को गिरा देता है. ऐसा अनदर एग्जांपल है मोंटी कार्लो. सबने नाम सुना होगा मोंटी कार्लो ब्रांड का. एक टाइम था मोंटी कार्लो वाज अ प्रीमियम ब्रांड इन द मार्केट. फिर धीरे धीरे मोंटी कार्लो के सामने हमेशा एक बोर्ड लगा रहता था 50% ऑफ, 50% ऑफ, 50% ऑफ. वो ब्रांड की वैल्यू गिर गई उसके बाद. नोबडी टेक्स द ब्रांड सीरियसली आफ्टर दैट. So discounts, it's okay to offer discounts, but be careful in offering them. Offer them to reward the loyalty of your customers, and also at the same time make sure that your discounts are designed in a way that caters to different audience as well. सबके लिए सेम डिस्काउंट काम नहीं करता at any point of time. So if there is an agenda you're trying to achieve, कुछ मंथ में आपको एक्सप्लोसिव ग्रोथ चाहिए, कुछ मंथ में अच्छा रिटेंशन चाहिए, टारगेट दोज मेट्रिक्स एंड सी हाउ दीज डिस्काउंट्स आर वर्किंग फॉर द कस्टमर्स एज वेल. That also brings us to the ventures in India. India is a very different market. As I said, that India is a price sensitive but value aware market. You know, India में intent to pay is low, but value कितनी मिलती है उसका awareness बहुत high है at any point of time. And Indian companies also keep on continuously evolving and experimenting with the pricing. हमारे पास 3 एग्जाम्पल हैं यहाँ पे, जैसे जोमेटो गोल्ड है, रेजर पे है और बाईजूस है. All of them are pretty popular names. Zomato started with loyalty, with deliveries, then फिर उन्होंने एक ad model निकाला and आज की डेट में premium model निकाला. They have been experimenting with the pricing for a very long time. अभी भी Zomato Gold की pricing change होती रहती है. जब उन्होंने सबसे पहले launch किया था Zomato Gold, I remember उन्होंने I think 1799 का शायद launch किया था. अब आज की डेट में to acquire new customers, sometimes they offer it for 99 rupees as well. Sometimes 499 का पूरे साल का मिल जाता है. So those experimentations still keep on going with Zomato. Similarly, Razorpay only came as a freemium model कि up to 1 lakh rupees of transaction free, we will not charge you anything. फिर उन्होंने pay as you go model निकाला कि we will not charge you any monthly subscription. आप महीने में जितने transaction करते हो उसके ऊपर हमें 2% दे देना. And then these pricing models keep on changing for them as well at some point. Similarly, Byju's. Byju's is a high ticket product. बाकी सारे आपके छोटे टिकट्स थे. Zomato हो गया, Razorpay हो गया. बाईजूस पे 10-20 हज़ार की ट्रांजेक्शन एक बार में हर कोई नहीं कर सकता. सो दे केम अप विद एन EMI मॉडल कि ठीक है, यू डोंट वांट टू पे हाई अमाउंट एट द सेम टाइम, आप मुझे EMI में पे कर दो. सो दे बेसिकली कन्वर्टेड इनटू अ सब्सक्रिप्शन मॉडल रादर देन अ हाई टिकट साइज राइट इन द बिगनिंग, व्हिच वाज अ ट्रांजेक्शन मॉडल कि एक बार में ज़्यादा अमाउंट लेके वील वेट, बट दे कन्वर्टेड इनटू अ सब्सक्रिप्शन बेस्ड मॉडल फॉर 6 months 12 months का EMIs में कन्वर्ट करके. So they actually had to shift into this model because it was becoming very difficult for them to sustain into the market without being able to predict the revenue कि हमारा अगले महीने कितना पैसा आएगा, and उसकी वजह से उनको इन्वेस्टर से फंड्स उठाने में भी दिक्कत पड़ रही थी. Revenue prediction and forecasting is very important for any business as well. So let's look at B2B versus the B2C strategies now. B2C में आपका इमोशनल डिसीजन होता है, जैसे हमने पहले बोला कि एक बायर है, उसने आपकी वैल्यू, आपका प्रोडक्ट देखा, उसकी वैल्यू देखी, एंड दे विल बी एबल टू टेक अ डिसीजन वेरी क्विकली. हाउएवर आपका जो B2B बिजनेस होता है, उसमें डिसीजन कंपैरेटिवली काफ़ी रैशनल होता है। वो आरओआई और लॉन्ग टर्म के बारे में सोचते हैं कि इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में कितना टाइम लगेगा, कितने लोग हमारे यहाँ पे ज़रूरत होगी इस प्रोडक्ट को इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए, एंड दे टेक मोर टाइम इन टेकिंग द डिसीजन एज वेल। सो फॉर B2B बिजनेस द प्राइमरी मेट्रिक शुड बी रिटेंशन, कि एक बार अगर हमने कस्टमर को लैंड कर लिया है, for how long can we retain them for? Usually customer acquisition cost और lifetime value की ratio 1 to 3 होनी चाहिए, which is a healthy ratio. Anything beyond that you are getting into the profits, which is a good business. On the other hand B2C में हमें फोकस करना चाहिए कन्वर्जन पे, कि अगर आज की डेट में मेरे प्रोडक्ट को 1000 लोग देख रहे हैं, तो क्या मैं इसमें से 100 लोगों को कन्वर्ट कर सकता हूँ, क्या मैं इसमें से 200 लोगों को कन्वर्ट कर सकता हूँ? दैट इज द मेट्रिक यू वांट टू लुक एट इट, लुक एट विद योर प्राइसिंग स्ट्रेटजीज ओवर हियर। अब वो डिस्काउंट देके करना है दोनों चीज़ों में, या फिर आपको प्राइसिंग को और इनोवेटिव करा के देना है, दैट इज ओके। And as we discussed earlier, that pricing should evolve as your business is evolving, as your business's stage is evolving. For a company जो zero to 10 customers जा रही है, यू हैव टू बी मोर फ्लेक्सिबल बिकॉज यू आर स्टिल लर्निंग कि आपके कस्टमर्स की नीड्स क्या हैं, उनकी ज़रूरतें क्या हैं, उनको क्या वैल्यू मिल रही है। पर जब आप 10 से 50 कस्टमर्स की तरफ मूव करते हो, देन यू स्टार्ट एक्सपेरिमेंटिंग विद टीयर्स ऑफ प्राइसिंग, बिकॉज नाउ यू हैव अ लिटिल बिट मोर क्लैरिटी कि मेरे बिजनेस में कौन से कस्टमर्स क्या चीज़ यूज़ कर रहे हैं, कौन से फीचर से उन्हें क्या क्या बेनिफिट्स मिलते हैं, कहाँ पे उन्हें रियल वैल्यू मिल रही है, एंड हाउ टू प्राइस दोज टीयर्स एज वेल, कितने टीयर्स मुझे दिखाई दे रहे हैं। एंड वंस यू गो बियॉन्ड 50 कस्टमर्स, 50 to 100 या फिर लेट्स से 100 to 1000 की तरफ हम अगर जा रहे हैं, तो आपको स्ट्रक्चर बनाना चाहिए वहाँ पे प्राइसिंग को लेके, दैट व्हाट डिस्काउंट्स आर ओके, डू वी वांट टू पुश फॉर एनुअल प्राइसिंग्स एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम। ठीक है, आप पूरे साल के लिए अभी कमिटमेंट करो, वील गिव यू 20% ऑफ, या फिर 2 महीने फ्री, या फिर वट एवर योर प्राइसिंग स्ट्रक्चर अलाउज, आप उन चीज़ों को टारगेट कर सकते हो। बट अगेन दिस शुड बी आइटरेटिव एज योर बिजनेस इज इवॉल्विंग, बिकॉज जो स्टार्टअप 0 to 10 की स्टेज में है, they would have to be more flexible at the early stage. जो 10 to 50 की स्टेज में है, you will still have to be flexible, but you have more data and control to communicate कि मेरे प्रोडक्ट से आपको क्या वैल्यू मिल रही है। So you would be in a better negotiating position. और जो स्टार्टअप बियॉन्ड 100 जा रहे हैं, दे वुड बी इन अ मोर स्ट्रक्चर्ड स्पेस, क्योंकि उनको एग्जैक्टली पता होना चाहिए एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम कि मेरे प्रोडक्ट से इसको क्या क्या फ़ायदा हुआ है। वी आर गोइंग टू reiterate this thing basically in this slide over here, that from 1 to 100 you will have early adopters. You want to talk to these early adopters to understand how are they using the product, how are they perceiving the value, और उस वैल्यू को क्वांटिफाई आप कैसे कर सकते हो, वो आपको यहाँ से पता चलेगा। आपको मार्केट वैलिडेशन मिलनी शुरू होगी, प्रोडक्ट मार्केट फिट की तरफ आप जाना शुरू करोगे थोड़ा सा। यूजिंग द डेटा पॉइंट्स ओवर हियर आप आइटरेटिव इंप्रूवमेंट्स करोगे। आइटरेटिव इंप्रूवमेंट्स करने के साथ साथ आप टारगेटेड मार्केटिंग कर सकते हो, बिकॉज नाउ यू वुड नो कि आपके कितने प्राइसिंग टीयर्स हैं और आपके कस्टमर्स को वैल्यू कहाँ कहाँ पे मिल रही है, किस टाइप के बायर्स को किस टाइप की वैल्यू मिल रही है। एंड फाइनली यू विल बिल्ड ऑन दोज कस्टमर रिलेशनशिप्स टू गेट मोर टेस्टिमोनियल्स that will bring your next 100 customers as well. So always keep iterating the prices. अब ऐसा नहीं है कि हम रोज सुबह उठ के प्राइसिंग को देखेंगे, फिक्स अ टाइमलाइन कि 6 महीने में देखना है, 3 महीने में देखना है, एंड दैट वुड बी अ गुड प्लेस फॉर यू टू revisit the pricing with more data objectively, कि this is what has happened in the last 6 months and this is the value that my customers has seen in the last 6 months. Again, same thing we are reiterating over here, that early 0 to 10 stage may you want to be as flexible, cheap or affordable, whatever metric works for you over here. In the next 10 to 50 stage, you want to validate the product market fit. यहाँ पे tiered pricing आपकी आनी शुरू हो जाएगी, यहाँ पे आपको थोड़ा सा product market fit दिखना शुरू होना चाहिए जब आप stage पे आते हो. And when you go beyond this, you're looking at scale and explosive growth. So you want to lock in the longer contracts over here. Multi-year deal आप दे सकते हो किसी customer को, 3 साल के लिए साइन करो, I'll give you 50% off. Some of those deals can also be fine at this point of time. Eventually, in the end, align the pricing as your business is maturing, as your customer needs are maturing as well. At the same time, you have to track the metrics that matter. If you are not measuring your metrics, then pricing without tracking metrics is just guesswork. You are just guessing कि क्या चल रहा है क्या नहीं चल रहा है. And this is where a lot of founders struggle. And again, I am one of those founders जिसने थोड़ा मुश्किल तरीके से सीखा है. There was not a lot of people to guide us on a lot of these things in the early stages as well. Pricing in the early days बड़ा exciting लगता है कि pricing करेंगे, ये करेंगे, and then we talk to the market और पता चलता है reality hits hard. यार, people are not perceiving it right. The reason behind that is the value is not communicated probably. And there is no such thing as right number अगर वैल्यू कम्युनिकेट नहीं कर रही है तो वो बस नॉइस हो जाता है. So the first thing you want to track very clearly is your customer acquisition cost versus the lifetime value of the customer. And this ratio should be 1:3 minimum at any point of time. Otherwise, you cannot build a profitable business. उसके बाद try to hit the positive growth. The gross margin should go into positivity within the 50th customer frame. If you can, that is very good. Even if you're able to hit it within the 100th customer, that is also a great metric. But 50 is amazing if you're able to do that. And try to keep your monthly churn below 5%. Now, when I say monthly churn over here, we are talking about customer going away. But one thing you can also do is look at the usage metric over here, because जब आप प्रोडक्ट का यूसेज देखते हो, इट ऑल्सो टेल्स यू कि कौन सा कस्टमर जाने वाला है. if a customer was using your product daily for 10 days and then suddenly next 5 days यूज नहीं कर रहा है, you have to put that in the churn bucket कि अचानक से ड्रॉप आउट क्यों हो रहा है. if a customer was buying regularly for 3 months and फिर 2 महीने नहीं खरीद रहा है, you know वो churning bucket में जाना शुरू हो रहा है. Both these churns you should track and try to keep them below 5%. If you're able to achieve these three metrics at the same time together, I guarantee you will have a profitable business, you will have a scalable business, and you will have more predictability in your business as well. The revenue is basically, guess what? If you're not able to forecast your profit retention, and which is a very critical metric for a business, because if you can't forecast, you're just guessing and you're shooting the arrows in the dark at any point of time. So some of the common pricing pitfalls, as we have discussed, that underpricing due to the fear of rejection. We have already discussed. I've also done that. It's okay to overprice your product. अगर ज़्यादा है बट कस्टमर को वैल्यू दिख रही है, वो आपको आके खुद बोलेंगे कि यार देख वैल्यू तो दिख रही है लेकिन आपका प्रोडक्ट महंगा है, कैन यू गिव मी डिस्काउंट, लेट देम आस्क फॉर डिस्काउंट. वो आपको नेगोशिएशन पोजीशन में अपने आप डाल देगा, जिसमें आप अपने हिसाब से उसको डिस्काउंट दे सकते हो क्लोज करने के लिए. एंड यू कैन आस्क द पर्सन कि आप कितना पे करोगे. इफ इट वर्क्स, दैट्स ग्रेट. People, if they see value, will usually not say no just looking at the pricing. उसके बाद, do not copy your competitors' pricing blindly. What works for them might not work for you. It's a and then the other problem with this is that you might end up starting a pricing war, which is something you don't want to do, because pricing war may the company that has more experience, more mature product will win. They will always have an upper hand. Being a new startup or new company offering services, आप pricing war में नहीं जीत सकते अगर आपके पास venture backed funding नहीं है to burn the money to just acquire the customers, which is आज की डेट में Zepto और Blinkit ये सब pricing war में पड़े हुए हैं. They're burning money to acquire the customers. Not a single one of these companies is able to report profitability आज की डेट में. Always track CAC versus LTV right from day one. The first customer you land, you should know कितना पैसा लगा है उसे acquire करने में और उसकी potential lifetime value क्या है. You should start tracking right from that moment immediately. And never revisiting pricing. Keep revisiting the pricing on periodic basis with the data that includes CAC, LTV, and all of these things, so that you have better overview on how to price based on the evolving market needs and dynamics as well. Finally, the 3-question checklist. Whenever we are talking about pricing, always ask just for 3 questions. If the answer to all the 3 questions is yes, then you are in a good space. If answer to any one of these questions is not yes, you really need to work on your pricing model again. The first question is, does my pricing reflect the value I deliver? Second is, can I communicate it in 10 seconds? If you cannot communicate your pricing in 10 seconds, your pricing is too complicated for people to understand. There would be complications. And finally, will it scale profitably as I grow? Will I be able to scale it as things move forward as well? So always ask these 3 questions. If the answer is yes to all 3, you're in a good space, keep moving forward. Okay, last slide for the day, guys. That is key takeaways. If from the last about 35 minutes of us talking, of me talking and you listening, agar only 3 things we can take back with us. One is price for value, not for the cost. You should know what it costs you to deliver a service, लेकिन अपनी pricing जो है वो value से associated होनी चाहिए. Always think about the triangle, price, cost, value triangle, and the closer you go to the value, the better you will be able to price your product at any point of time. Continuously test, learn, and iterate. Understand which pricing works for which audience. Once you expand into the international markets, you will also understand that you will need market specific pricing. For example, the pricing that works in India would not work in US or a market like Africa. You might need very different pricing for all these markets as well. And align the pricing to the growth stage. Once you are 100 customers beyond and you're looking at the growth, then you will have to align your pricing in tiered structure and standardize it in a much better way at that point of time. Okay, so I'll stop here. Let's look into some questions, and I'll try to answer some of the questions that you have. Let's see what is working for you, what is confusing, and let's try to define it.
Yeah, so before we move to the Q&A segment, sir, I want to thank you for that insightful session, and I'm sure everyone has gained valuable takeaways they can start applying to their startup right away. And the way you connected real examples with strategies framework truly made it easier for founders to understand how to make pricing growth drivers rather than a challenge. So now let's take up a few questions from our audience. So the first question is, how can a startup choose the right revenue model during its early stage?
Sure. So the first thing there is to understand whether you are in a B2B or a B2C space. सबसे पहला मेट्रिक ही यही है. Before we get into the pricing structure, हमारा operating space क्या है, वो पता होना ज़रूरी है. अगर स्टार्टअप बी टू बी स्पेस में है, देयर रेवेन्यू मॉडल इज गोइंग टू बी डिफरेंट. अगर वो बी टू सी स्पेस में है, देयर प्राइसिंग स्ट्रक्चर इज गोइंग टू बी वेरी डिफरेंट एज वेल. सो दैट इज द फर्स्ट थिंग दैट दे हैव टू फिगर आउट कि हम केटर किसको करते हैं. आर वी केटरिंग टू द बिजनेसेस और आर वी केटरिंग टू द डायरेक्ट कंज्यूमर ओवर हियर. And on the basis of that you will work on your pricing structure. The second thing that comes after that is, अगर हम business को कर रहे हैं, we will have two or three different ways of structuring the pricing. Number one is कि do we want to charge on a monthly recurring basis? Do we charge a one-time licensing fee, or do we want to license the product out? You know, we have to figure some of those things out. उसके लिए, as we said, what value is the product driving? We have to focus on that. Is there an example that we can take over here? Like if there is a business example we can dive into, or should I just use one of the industry examples that we have?
Yes, sir, we can take an example from the industry.
Okay, so let's take an example of ClickUp. I don't know सबने ClickUp का नाम सुना है नहीं सुना है, but it's a project management tool. ClickUp caters to the direct audience, but their buying persona is businesses. So it's a different journey for them. Basically, I can take up ClickUp for my personal use as well, but they don't sell to me. They sell to the business, right? So if they want to capture me as a user, they offer the service for absolutely free. They don't charge me anything. Up to 5 users, I can make a community of users without paying anything. But जैसे ही मुझे 6 user ऐड करना होता है, I need to start paying for all the 6 users as well. So what ClickUp does is कि आप मेरा product free में use करो. I don't mind that. As many people they want to use in an organization, they can use the product for free. Once you start collaborating as a team, is where the money की demand आनी शुरू होती है कि अब आप मुझे पैसा दो, because you are using the product as a team. So their primary target is businesses. They are a B2B model, but they chose to go via the route of direct users कि हम users को अपना product use करके उनको आदत पड़वा देंगे कि how innovative and easy our product to use is. और उसके बाद जब उनको अच्छा लगना शुरू हो जाएगा, that is when we'll charge for the product. So that is how ClickUp basically structures their pricing strategy. Other example लेते हैं हम. आज ही मैं आर्टिकल पढ़ रहा था Zepto का. Zepto's pricing strategy. Okay, I have a question. How can we test whether our pricing is too high or too low for the market? Great question, Kush. So I'll take this question first before I go back to Zepto. How do you test whether your pricing is too high or too low? Throw a higher pricing and let the people say कि बहुत high pricing है. अगर आप लो करोगे तो कोई ज़्यादा तो बोलेगा नहीं कि यार आपकी प्राइसिंग बहुत लो है, आप ज़्यादा मांगो. कोई नहीं बोलता ऐसा at any point of time. Put your pricing at a higher anchor. We discussed that anchor it high. Offer the higher pricing. अगर किसी को वैल्यू दिखती है वो अपने आप आके बोलेंगे यार कि प्रोडक्ट अच्छा है, आपकी सर्विस अच्छी है, बट you are asking for a lot of money. Are there discounts available? And then you understand जब 3-4 लोग अगर आपको बोलते हैं कि सब लोग डिस्काउंट मांग रहे हैं, you are priced high. But again, this is a hit and try. When you talk to people, you throw the pricing, they will tell you whether you are priced high or you are asking for the right amount. If nobody is complaining about the pricing being high, that means you are keeping it too low. let the people complain about the pricing being high as well. I hope that answers the question. Okay, now coming back to Zepto. Zepto की pricing strategy क्या है? Now Zepto is a 10-minute delivery platform. सब कुछ आपके घर पे आएगा. लेकिन right now there is a customer acquisition war that is happening between Zepto, Blinkit, BB Daily and like few other platforms as well. So Zepto की pricing strategy है कि we will charge a very nominal amount for customer acquisition. कि पहले वो कहते थे कि आपका 500 रुपए का ऑर्डर है हम फ्री देंगे, अब वो 99 पे भी फ्री दे रहे हैं आपको ऑर्डर. So they are burning more money. So they just raised $450 million. But looking at how they're burning, probably this money would help them survive for next 7 months, not beyond that. Right? So this pricing war is hurting all these platforms in India at this point of time. Their pricing strategy is not standard because वो खाली acquisition पे ध्यान दे रहे हैं. They are not looking at scalability or growth at any point of time. So their pricing strategy targets acquisition, but it is not targeting predictability, especially in a market जहाँ customer loyalty नहीं है. कल मुझे जेप्टो पिक की जगह ब्लिंकिट अगर फ्री में देगा तो मैं उन पे चला जाऊंगा. राइट. सो यू हैव टू लुक एट सम ऑफ दीज फैक्टर्स एज वेल कि कस्टमर लॉयल्टी अगर बिल्ड करनी है तो वी शुड प्रॉब्ली नॉट गेट इनटू द प्राइसिंग वॉर एंड वी शुड प्रॉब्ली ऑफर अ प्राइसिंग दैट communicates the value and trust and builds a trust in the customer after that. Okay. Next question.
Thank you, sir, for answering this question. We have one more question on the comment section that should we make our pricing according to our competitors' pricing or focus on the values we are providing?
Got it. As a mixture. So this is something we just discussed earlier as well. One of the easiest way to price your product is कि चार पांच कॉम्पिटिटर का प्राइस देखा, एवरेज आउट किया कि we'll offer it this price and start a pricing war here. But it usually does not work in the long run. आपको लॉन्च करना है प्रोडक्ट, it's fine to do that because there's a lot of nuances in pricing. The first thing to come up to understand when we are coming up with the pricing is कि what is it going to cost us to deliver a service or a product, right? So at a very early stage, sometimes it's difficult to know कि हमें कितना कॉस्ट करेगा, उसके ऊपर हमें कितना मार्कअप करना चाहिए and then we put that out. So a lot of companies or people do this कि ठीक है जो भी मार्केट में प्राइस कॉम्पिटिटर का दिख रहा है उसका एवरेज करके बना दिया या फिर उसका चीपेस्ट ले लिया और हाईएस्ट वाले का प्राइस ले लिया हमने एट एनी पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम. हाउएवर इन द लॉन्ग रन दिस इज नॉट सस्टेनेबल और ग्रोथ के लिए भी ये मेट्रिक अच्छा नहीं होता. अगेन कमिंग बैक टू द ट्राइंगल ऑफ वैल्यू कॉस्ट एंड वैल्यू प्राइसिंग एंड कॉस्ट ट्राइंगल जो है हमारा, प्राइसिंग हमारा अगर सेंटर में है we should always try to go as close to the value that we are delivering in comparison to the cost what it is costing us to deliver the service. The reason behind that is the closer we get to the value, the better we understand our customer. The only way we'll get to the value part is जब हम अपने customer को समझना शुरू करेंगे कि हमारे customer को value कहाँ से मिलती है. This is something we are only able to do by talking to the customers. जब हम customer से बात करते हैं कि आपने हमारा product लिया था, आपको क्या value मिली, right? So we have to quantify that. I'll give you an example. So my product, it's in the L&D space. L&D space is a usually cost center. It's not a profit center. Cost center में क्या होता है कि सबको लगता है कि they are charging us money, but immediate profit किसी को दिखाई नहीं देता है. तो for example, उन्होंने मेरे product से एक course बनाया to enable 10 sales people on how to have better negotiation with the customers. अब course सेल्स के लोगों ने कर लिया, खत्म हो गया. हाउ डू वी परसीव द वैल्यू? देन व्हाट वी हैव टू डू इज आफ्टर दैट वी टॉक टू द 10 सेल्स पीपल एंड लुक एट द डेटा. इस कोर्स को खत्म करने के 3 महीने बाद उसमें से कितने लोगों का सेल्स बढ़ा. अगर 2 से 3 लोगों का सेल्स भी बढ़ जाता है देन वी लुक एट द नंबर कि वो सेल्स में इंप्रूवमेंट कितना हुआ है एंड इज दिस बिकॉज उनकी नेगोशिएशन बेटर हुई है या पहले से ही पाइपलाइन में था, क्लोज होना ही था. इफ वी आर एबल टू क्वान्टिफाई कि उस कोर्स से उनकी नेगोशिएशन स्किल्स 20% बेटर हो गई है जिसकी वजह से लेट्स से कंपनी को 1 लाख रुपए का फायदा हुआ सपोज, तो आई नो कि मेरे एक कोर्स से कंपनी को 1 लाख रुपए की क्वांटिफाइबल वैल्यू मिली है. अब अगर वो वैल्यू 1 लाख रुपए की है दैट मीन्स मैं उनसे 1/10 10,000 रुपये आराम से इस प्रोडक्ट के लिए चार्ज कर सकता हूँ. दे शुड बी हैप्पी टू गो फॉर दिस एज वेल क्योंकि आई एम एबल टू क्वांटिफाई द वैल्यू टू दैट, राइट. बट देन अगेन एज आई सेड इसको करने में टाइम लगता है. यू हैव टू टॉक टू द कस्टमर्स, यू हैव टू कंटिन्यूसली आस्क फॉर फीडबैक, आइटरेशन होता है बार बार, वो क्वांटिफिकेशन बहुत ज़रूरी है. जब तक वो मेट्रिक क्वांटिफाई नहीं कर सकते वैल्यू का, उस वैल्यू की रुपीज़ में या डॉलर में वैल्यू क्या है, आप प्राइसिंग के साथ उसको एसोसिएट नहीं कर सकते. राइट। तो आपको कंटिन्यूसली बात करके डेटा अपने कस्टमर से लेना पड़ेगा और उसके बाद ही आप उसको क्वांटिफाई करके वैल्यू से एसोसिएट कर पाओगे। बट हाँ, इट शुड बी ऑलवेज क्लोजर टू द वैल्यू रादर देन द competitive pricing.
So, thank you, sir, for addressing these questions and for sharing your valuable time and experience with us. And to all our audience, thank you for joining today's webinar. उम्मीद है आपको आज का सेशन से अपने स्टार्टअप के लिए एक स्ट्रॉन्ग रेवेन्यू और प्राइसिंग रोड मैप मिल गया होगा. And remember, pricing is not just about numbers; it's about value perception. So choose wisely, deliver consistently, and growth will follow. So will you we will see you in our next session. So till then, stay curious and keep building. So thank you and take care, and thank you
Thanks,
so much,
guys.
sir.
Good luck.
Thank you so much, sir.
Bye bye.